It's just a fact. Like, breast is best. Hello, wake up. Like, I should have researched things. There's always nuance. I know this is really hard. Like, it's so hard, but everything's a phase. You're gonna get through this. You are so strong. Like, your baby loves you so much and is so thankful for everything you're doing for them. This one might ruffle some feathers. Today, we're gonna talk all things breastfeeding. So I have been wanting to cover this topic for a while now. I've learned so much. I'm on my third child. I want to share how I overcame so many struggles with breastfeeding, and share a bit about each of the breastfeeding journeys with each of my 3 children, and hopefully help you to become more confident when it comes to breastfeeding. I'm really passionate about this topic, and while I do this, I have some laundry to fold here. So if you're behind on laundry too, just go ahead and grab yours, and we'll just kind of chat, girl talk, mom chat while we get something productive done. So I've got to fold my kids' laundry tonight, and that is always adorable, but also so many individual pieces that have to get folded. Having the 3rd kid really increased my laundry by quite a bit somehow. So if you're new here, I'm Katie. I just had my 3rd child, and he is now 3 months old. Then I also have 4 and 6-year-old daughters. So I am somehow at the point where I'm like pretty experienced in this motherhood thing. It feels weird to say that because I like struggle to say that I'm really good at something, but I am 6 years into this motherhood thing, which obviously there's a lot of unknowns still in my journey, but I know from 0 to 6 pretty well. From 0 to 4 I've done it twice, and these first 3 months I've done 3 times. So I have a lot of this motherhood thing under my belt. So I feel like I want to share what I've learned, and maybe it won't help you at all, but maybe you'll take bits and pieces. You know, I think one of the things that I've learned in my motherhood journey is to listen to everything, but also listen to nothing. So listen to everything and just take it all in, but don't take anything as the gospel. You know, there's no one right way that fits everyone perfectly. There's nuance in motherhood. There's nuance with each child. So even as one mother, but with 3 different children, there's nuance between my 3 children and the situations and the way they came into the world and what was going on in the world when each of them were born and in our lives. And there's always nuance. So I get upset over things on social media too, but I just don't understand the people who are just spewing hate over something that they don't agree with, because it's like, you don't know. You've never walked in somebody else's shoes to be able to just, get so mad over their opinion. And I get it. People speak with authority too, but like, you kind of have to if you're just doing a 10-second reel and trying to get a point across. You just can't share a lot of nuance. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to put that out there. So I think that this video, might ruffle some feathers, because first thing I want to say is that when I say breastfeeding, I'm talking about literally baby on the breast, not pumping, not using somebody else's breast milk, not, I don't know, any other scenario that could potentially be called breastfeeding. I'm referring to literally putting baby on breast and feeding them. So let me start off with a little bit about each of my breastfeeding journeys so far, because I think that will maybe like soften the blow of some of the things that I might have to say. So with my first, she was born a month early, and she was very tiny. She was 5 pounds 12 ounces when she was born, and so that I feel like played a factor in it. Preemies are also very sleepy. She had struggles with jaundice, which also increases the sleepiness. So she just had absolutely no desire to eat. She didn't want to wake up to eat. She didn't want to open her mouth to latch on to the breast. So it was just an extraordinary struggle. Like in the hospital, we had to feed her with a little 1 milliliter syringe because she just wasn't eating. And so I was very determined. I thought I was educated on breastfeeding. I knew that I wanted to exclusively breastfeed. And so I struggled to make it work for probably about a month. And she would literally cough up blood after eating sometimes because my nipples were so raw because her latch was just horrible. But I would just like suffer through it because I was like, okay, she's getting some milk right now. But that was the absolute wrong thing to do. I never should have done that. I also suffered from extreme engorgement. I don't think I'm officially an overproducer by definition, but I have a high milk supply, so that is a blessing. I'd rather have high than low, but it also is extremely painful in the beginning. And so one of the mistakes I made was that I would pump to help with that, and little did I know that was simply making the problem worse, and adding to my struggle. So I'll get more into that, but basically I ended up just giving up on the breastfeeding and just pumping for the second month of her life. And then I don't know my anatomy, or maybe I never fully figured out pumping or what, but I just cannot pump without getting just endless clogged ducts. And again, that being my first, I didn't know how to handle the clogged ducts, and so I ended up getting mastitis. And at that point I just was like, I'm done. I had some pumped breast milk in the freezer, but basically from like 3 months on, my first was just formula fed, just the regular old Enfamil formula. Like, I literally didn't know half the things I know now. So that has haunted me at times to know, but I've tried to just accept that the past is past, and she is a extremely intelligent, smart, healthy young girl now. So praise God for that. And sometimes you just have to let things go. When we know better, we do better. So then with my second, I was really passionate about doing better with breastfeeding. So then with my second, God bless her, she also came out just starving and ready to go. So she like latched on immediately, had a great latch from the get-go, and that was extremely helpful. And like, she woke up and cried when she was hungry, and it was just night and day difference from my first. And so that was wonderful, and we had a great breastfeeding experience. I know I experienced like frustrations and struggles. I still would pump a little bit so that like my husband could help at night with her sometimes. So there was some pumping involved, but not a lot, because I hate pumping with a passion. And I dealt with like clogged ducts and stuff, but I knew a little bit more like how to handle them. And like, I made sure like get that clog out as quickly as possible so it doesn't turn into mastitis or anything else. And so I was just a little bit more relaxed, number one, which was super helpful, and number two, a little more experienced, a little more informed, and just more confident in my ability as a mother, as all second-time mothers are. Someone had asked me, like they struggled with their first, should they try again with breastfeeding? Absolutely, 1000%. I just absolutely would try again, because every baby is so different, and you're so different as a second-time mom, just your mentality, your confidence. So absolutely try again if you haven't had success in the past, because it's such a beautiful thing to have a successful breastfeeding journey. Back to my story with my second, we had a great breastfeeding journey, but I also was like kind of getting to the point of being over it. She was born in 2020, so it was during the pandemic, so we were always home all the time, so it was like easy in that sense to breastfeed. But I also had another child that I was caring for, so it was like that juggling act. And then she also didn't sleep through the night for 6 months, so I was still like waking up every night to either feed her or pump, because even though if my husband would feed her a bottle and get her back down, I still had to pump to keep up with that demand. So then what happened is that my husband got diagnosed with thyroid cancer and was gonna have to have surgery and wasn't going to be able to lift anything. And so that at that point I was just like, I cannot do this. Like, a year before, my dad had passed away from cancer, so I'm finding out that my husband now is getting diagnosed with cancer. And I had she was 3, I had my 3-year-old who was still needing to be rocked to sleep and everything like that. And not rocked to sleep, but the whole bedtime routine and process. So she had her whole routine. Then I had my baby, my 6-month-old, who was still gonna need to be fed all the time and rocked to sleep. And we were gonna have to go and be out of town for the surgery, like just all these things that come into play when you're dealing with a cancer diagnosis and looking at surgery. And so I was just like, you know what, I gotta just end the breastfeeding. Like I can't do it. On top of everything else that's going on, I can't do it. So at 6 months, we stopped and she switched over to formula. She has a dairy allergy, so we had to do a dairy-free formula. We went to the gastroenterologist, got the, their best recommendation of formula. Well, it's literally like 44% corn syrup solids. Found that out after the fact, obviously, because this is, again, I had no idea about ingredients or anything like that back then. So again, dealt with a lot of like guilt over the fact that I quit breastfeeding and gave her this crap formula and just all this. So it's really tough mental game, this whole motherhood thing. But again, just have to let it go. Just pray that she's healed in Jesus' name and that everything, happened the way that it happened. I can't go back. I can't change it. I can't change the fact that, my husband had to have this major surgery and I had to handle 2 kids for his recovery time, and I had help. I had other sources, but it was something that I could cut out and take off my plate was breastfeeding, and just switching to formula just was easier at that point in my life. So fast forward to baby number 3, every single thing that I learned between my second and my third, just my whole life is different. Like my mindset on things, what I know, like I thought I was educated on breastfeeding. No, now I'm educated on breastfeeding. Now I feel like I fully understand the beautiful design of mother and baby together and how the production of milk works and just all of the benefits and everything. So with my third, we're 3 months in. Obviously, I have no idea what life is going to throw at us. I didn't know at 3 months with my second that all hell was going to break loose. And so I pray to God that that does not happen. Nothing major happens in our lives. In Jesus' name, we are going to have a smooth, full year of breastfeeding and everything's going to go really well. But so far, everything has been really great with him. And I feel like the biggest difference with all of the knowledge that I now have is that I don't have the same frustrations that I had with my second. I understand the process. I understand what's happening when we're dealing with cluster feeding or pulling, or I understand how to like protect my body from pains and from getting damage or anything like that. So that's the understanding that I want you guys to have going into a breastfeeding journey, because it makes all the difference. It really does. Okay, apparently I am not good at talking and folding laundry, because that whole time I was not folding anything. I was just sitting here talking. So I wanted to talk through the benefits of breastfeeding, because I think the more you know and research about the benefits, that's an encouragement to you in those times when you feel like, ugh, this is a lot to handle, because it is a commitment. But, inevitably you're going to have times where you question your decision, like, oh, should I keep breastfeeding? And the answer is probably yes, from what's best for baby standpoint. It never hurts to just remind yourself the benefits of breastfeeding as an encouragement. So obviously breast milk is a perfect nutrient milk for your baby. And our bodies change when the baby's saliva gets onto the nipple. It sends signals to the mother's brain, which sends signals to produce the milk in the exact way that the baby needs. Now, I will say, if you're just not taking care of yourself, you're eating poorly, you're, putting bad things into your body's not magically gonna have like this perfect, beautiful output. Like, you need to be taking care of yourself, continue to take your supplements, your prenatals and all that, eat well, like take care of your nutrition, your mineral intake, like either through supplements, or the best thing is like through food, whole foods, and electrolyte drinks and stuff like that. You got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can have that perfect nutrient dense breast milk for your baby. But the design is that your body is gonna do its best with what it has to work with to give your baby the best that it can. Then you probably have also heard how breastfeeding reduces the risk of certain cancers and other health problems with the mom. So like breast and ovarian cancer, your likelihood is reduced after breastfeeding. High blood pressure can be helped through breastfeeding. Your risk of type 2 diabetes is reduced through breastfeeding, and the list goes on. There's so many benefits to mom physically from breastfeeding. It also helps with your healing postpartum. As you're breastfeeding, that's helping to cause those extremely painful but necessary kind of post-birth contractions that are clamping down your uterus and helping quickly get back down to its size. Mental health is also affected through breastfeeding. It can help reduce the risk of postpartum depression and lower your feelings of like stress and anxiety. Now that one, I think it can be stressful if you're struggling, but if once you get on a good track and like everything's running smoothly, definitely. And the bonding with baby is obviously just incredible. There's nothing like it, for sure. Certainly you can bond with your baby through bottle feeding, formula feeding. Like, it's not to say that those things don't happen. People get so angry if you say something positive about breastfeeding, then you must be crapping all over formula. And it's like, let's just live in reality. It's not an opinion, it's just a fact. Like, breast is best. Breast milk is best for babies. Breastfeeding is best for moms physically with your health. Are there situations like in my 2 different stories that both led me to ultimately giving my babies formula, and like they're okay? You know, it's okay. It wasn't what was best for them though. Like, breast milk would have been better than formula for them. I don't know why we can't say that. You know, as a mom, is it hard to know that I wasn't able to do that for them? Yeah, it is. But I also know that I had to survive. It's better for me as their mother to survive and to, you know, help once I had my second, help my first child survive and thrive, care for my family. Like, there's nuance, as I was saying in the beginning. There's always nuance. But it doesn't change the fact that breast is best. That's not an opinion. That's just a fact. Side note to go along with that, did you know that it's literally a law in the United States that all infant formula must contain seed oils, vegetable oils? Like, it has to. That's why you can't find formula without seed oils, because it legally has to be in there. And I remember thinking with my first, when I was making her bottles, like, wow, I'm really putting a lot of trust into this formula company. Like, I'm trusting that this scoop of formula contains everything that it says it contains. Hello, wake up. Like, I should have researched things. I don't know. The thought stopped there at the time, but that was a valid thought, a valid concern. As we know, formula companies have had troubles in the past. Back to the benefits of breastfeeding, we probably all know that you can protect your baby from different infections and viruses and things through breast milk, because your body has the antibodies, and those are passed on to your baby through the breast milk, which is just so amazing. And the last benefit of breastfeeding, if you do it the all natural way, like not pumping and dealing with all that, is that it's virtually free. Like, you might need to buy some special bras, some nursing pads, like there's certain things that you might need to buy, but like overall, compared to the price of formula, which is just astronomical, it's free. So that's a great benefit. Side note off that, I feel like I've seen things on social media where breastfeeding moms are like almost seeming like they're offended if you say breastfeeding is free. Like, well, no, it's not. I have to buy this, that, and the other. Okay, but like, it's cheaper than formula. Maybe it's not 100% free. Why are you trying to like downplay one of the benefits? One of the good things about breast milk is that it's free. So I just don't understand. So how to master breastfeeding? I feel like at this point, praise the Lord, all glory to God, I can say that I have mastered breastfeeding. I'm so beyond grateful for that. Like, it's been so redemptive. You know, it was with my second too. Like, it was so redemptive to have a good breastfeeding experience with her. And same this time around, because it's even better than it was with my second. So I'm super grateful for that. But as I was saying, like, the number one thing that I feel like is helpful for mastering breastfeeding is just fully having an understanding of God's perfect design and knowing the process and how it works and all of the ways that you and baby work together to create a beautiful journey, to create enough milk, to create, a good schedule and routine for them. And everything just flows so smoothly when you're just allowing nature to run its course and not interfering. A lot of the problems that women have with breastfeeding are a result of interference. If we just let things happen the way that they're supposed to, I think it works out more times than it doesn't. How would we, have gotten to this point if it didn't, before formula was a thing, before, of course there's always been those one-offs, again, the nuance. There's always situations, where it didn't work out, where there wasn't enough supply, or, you can go down, list off a million things that, maybe were a problem at one point or another, but we're talking about generalizations on the whole, So I think that new moms, the number one thing you should research is not what car seat to buy or what crib is going to look prettiest in the nursery. It should be breastfeeding, like keeping your baby alive after they come out of your body. It's crazy that we worry about, what clothes they're going to wear or what brand of diapers. Like, not that those things don't matter, but the priority and what everyone should be screaming from the rooftops for new moms is about breastfeeding education. So one problem that I have seen over time with friends and just other women that I know who are breastfeeding is that the world is going to tell you that you need to pump because you need help. Like, dad needs to help feed baby, and other people need to be able to help feed baby, and you need help, and so you got to pump and you got to be able to give bottles. No. So, quick disclaimer, a lot of what I'm talking about is like in the newborn stage. So within the first 3 months, within the first 1 to 2 months for sure, stretching into maybe the third month. Then after you get rolling, like, things are more established and it's not as big of a deal. Once things are fully established and running smoothly, then you can like introduce other things, and I don't think it throws you off course as much. But in the beginning, when you're establishing your supply, you're establishing your routine, your baby's very tiny, and it's just like, you gotta just let nature take its course. So I'm not talking about, pumping when they're 6 months old. I think that's probably okay. So just had to give that quick disclaimer. But back to what I'm saying with the help. Here's what's helpful for a breastfeeding mom. You can send this to somebody, who's telling you need to pump because you need help. No, how about you help with the dishes while I sit and feed the baby? How about you play with my other kids while I sit and feed the baby? How about at night, dad, this is what my husband has done for all 3 kids. When the baby gets up, it's not just me getting up and dealing with it. Like, you also, husband, get up, you bring the baby in or out of the bassinet, wherever the baby is, change the diaper, deal with the soaking wet swaddle blanket, whatever it is, hand baby to mom so she can feed them. And then when she's done, you get the baby back down. Like, the feeding is the least of it. The actual, like, feeding of the baby is the least of it. There's so many ways that people can help. And the best thing that you can do for a mom and for her baby is to support her breastfeeding journey. So I'm super thankful that I have had that support in my life from my mom and my husband. They have absolutely been vital in my successful breastfeeding journey. So very blessed to have that. I know it's not something that everyone has, but I think it is super important for a successful breastfeeding journey. So again, going back to pumping, that's a problem early on to involve any pumping, because you're using your baby to train your body for how much milk it needs to make. Like, your body doesn't know how much milk it needs to make. It might be making too much, it might be not making enough, but working with you and your baby, it's gonna figure it out. Now for me this time, it took like a good 4 to 5 weeks for everything to feel like it was running smoothly, to be pain-free, to not have engorgement, for my letdown to stop being so painful, like all those things. It takes time. Now with my first, I had pretty much given up before I ever even had gotten to a point where it could have started to level out. So I think that's another thing, is that you always hear breastfeeding shouldn't be painful. Well, there might be some pain involved at first. And there's, I'm not going to make this a video about that topic specifically, but like you might experience some pain with breastfeeding in the beginning. Once everything's established and you've gotten it all figured out, then no, it shouldn't be painful. But like there might be some discomfort, or rather there's going to be some discomfort in the beginning, and you've got to just hold on and get through that stage. So every time that your baby is hungry, they are wanting to give your body a signal of how much milk they need. And so when you introduce a pump in those early days, the pump is not telling your body the same message that the baby would be. Pumps don't empty the breast as well as baby does, and they don't have the baby's saliva sending signals back to the mom that tell our bodies what baby is needing. So that's one of the problems that I have with pumping in the early days, because I've seen too many moms struggle with supply in the second month because they started pumping too soon and their body wasn't receiving the signals of, no, you need to make more. Now, I think that does continue past the early days. I think there's more wiggle room to be able to introduce pumping later on, but ultimately it's always that connection. It's always that back and forth between mom and baby sending signals to tell your body how much milk to be producing. So if you're having a low supply struggle, I wouldn't pump at all. I would bring baby to breast as much as possible. Now, you will hear like, oh, do power pumping, like pumping every 15 minutes for an hour, and that can help increase supply. Well, having baby at your breast every 15 minutes for an hour can also help supply. So I don't know why we want to bring in this mechanical machine when we have our perfect baby there that can do the job way better. So another thing are passies. I was asked, is there a good passy you recommend for breastfed babies? And in my experience, my breastfed babies do not take passies. My first had a passy, but she was mainly bottle fed. So I haven't cracked the code on that. But again, in the early days, in the beginning of establishing latch, establishing supply, all that, like I would not even attempt to do a passy, because passies are created as a replacement for your nipple. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, like the baby's using you as a passy. No, the nipple came first, the passy came later. So if your baby is needing to suck, they either are actually hungry and so you need to be feeding them, or they might just be looking for comfort. But also a lot of the time that baby might just be like suckling at the breast and they're not really having their feeding. A lot of times this happens after they have their full feeding and they're still wanting to suck at the breast. That is them telling your body to increase your supply. And I've noticed that this time around, like there's phases where he'll just eat and then he'll unlatch and he's asleep and ready for bed or whatever it is, or ready for play, whatever it is. But there's also times where he'll just suck and suck and suck. And I think that's where, like with my second, I used to get frustrated and be like, oh, like she just using me as a passy or whatever they always say. And it was like, no, the baby is actually, this is them signaling, okay, I'm about to have a growth spurt and I'm gonna need more milk and I need your body to produce more milk. And so that's like those signals are happening in those moments. So of course there's times where I unlatch him and I'm like, okay, it's time for bed, like let's go, or we have to go, and so I have to unlatch him. But I do try to let him just kind of suckle at times, because I know like, okay, he's gonna have a growth spurt, he needs it. Same thing with cluster feeding in the beginning. Like that is just your baby constantly giving signals to your body to establish your supply. In the first few weeks, you are establishing your supply, and if it doesn't get well enough established, that is going to be a struggle for the rest of your breastfeeding journey. Like you can try to increase it, but it's really hard to increase it once you've like established it at a lower level. So a different kind of pump would be like the Haka or any sort of the passive pumps where it's like placing suction on your breast, but it's not like hooked up to a machine. Those are absolutely terrible if you're struggling with engorgement, which I feel like a lot of times those are recommended when you're engorged in the beginning to like relieve some pressure. You're actually telling your body that it needs to make more. And so you're just making the engorgement worse. So again, when we're just introducing these different tools into our breastfeeding journey, when really it just needs to be mom and baby, and everything is going to work out a lot better. So this time around, I tried not to use anything. There were times that I did like hand express when I was just really in a lot of pain, or he started like sleeping longer stretches while my body was still adjusting. But the thing you don't want to do is trigger a letdown, because once you trigger the letdown, that's like telling your body, okay, I needed more. I needed to produce more milk, and then you're even more engorged than you were in the beginning. So it's kind of like a very tightrope that you walk. But what I did this time around is just deal with it. Like, sorry, there's no cheat code. Just deal with it. You know, it's discomfort, it's pain. If you're getting clogs, then that's a different story. You got to work those out. But if you're just engorged in the beginning, sorry for the hand motions. If you're just really engorged in the beginning, you got to kind of just deal with it, because it's going to work itself out. It's going to become more, you're gonna regulate your body. So that probably took a good 4 weeks this time around. So don't give up. I know it's horrible. Tell your husband to just leave you alone. Don't even hug me in the beginning, because it's just so painful. But if you can get through it, like, I promise it's for the good. It's for your good in the end. So the one thing that I do think is a must-have are the silver nursing cups. So they're a little, basically like nipple covers that are made out of silver. You have to get the ones that are actually 100% pure silver, and you just wear those 24/7. Like, if you're not feeding the baby, you have those on, and the silver has like natural healing properties, and I swear those are a must-have for, you always see all the creams and lotions and potions promoted to help like protect your nipples. With these, you don't put anything, because you want just the silver on your skin because of the natural healing properties, and they work 1,000 times better than any cream. It's amazing. Must have for anyone who's breastfeeding. Once you kind of get past those early weeks and your baby has a better latch and your body is more like adjusted, kind of toughened up to breastfeeding, then you don't need to wear them anymore. But for those first few weeks, maybe a couple months, like, I highly recommend the silver nursing cups. So ultimately, it all boils down to just removing interference. I know that it's tough. I know not everyone has the support that they need to be able to do it. But I think if you can just have your baby and yourself and just not introduce pumps or passies or bottles or like anything else for those first critical months, I think you really set yourself up for success with breastfeeding. And again, like, I know it's hard, but you can do hard things. So the world wants to tell breastfeeding moms, and certainly the formula companies want to tell breastfeeding moms, that it's okay. It's okay to just quit, because as a breastfeeding mom, you're going to have hard days. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to give up. And then you'll have everybody, telling you, like, it's okay. It's okay. Just do bottles. Just do formula. It's no big deal. And, if that's the path you choose, it's okay. I don't need to reiterate the caveats. I formula fed at some point both of my babies already. I'm hoping not to this time around, but if I do have to, then I have to. It is what it is. But like, what breastfeeding moms need is for somebody to come along and say, I know this is really hard. Like, it's so hard, but everything's a phase. You're gonna get through this. You are so strong. Like, your baby loves you so much and is so thankful for everything you're doing for them. And one of my mottos this time around too is like, don't quit on a bad day. So wait till you're having a beautiful day where baby is latching really well, you don't have any pain, they're not cluster feeding, they're just eating on a more of a routine schedule, and on that day, if it's still not working out, then you can quit. But let's not quit today. Let's push through. Like, imagine if every breastfeeding mom had someone saying that to them on their bad days. You can just clip this video and I'll be the one to tell you, because it's so important. And I think a lot of the reason why there's so much like crazy backlash if you say positive things about breastfeeding is because it's our nature. Like we are built to feed our babies. Like, again, that's not an opinion, it's just a fact. We're created to feed our babies. And so when we choose formula, there's like this guilt involved there, or not guilt, but just it goes against our nature to not breastfeed. And so I think that's why women can struggle so much with any positivity towards breastfeeding. They're just like offended. So again, I don't know why it has to be like a formula versus breastfeeding. Why can't we just share the information about breastfeeding and then know that formula is also an option? And we can share information about formula, but like what does every formula company say? What is formula all about? It's trying to be breast milk. So anytime you have something where it's trying to be something else, that's the superior thing. Like if breastfeeding isn't superior to formula, then why is formula trying to be breast milk? You see what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. Another crucial part to breastfeeding is just feeding on demand and not trying to follow a super strict schedule. I know I've mentioned a schedule, but I just mean like the one that your baby chooses. There's gonna be times where your baby's thirsty, or they're a little bit hungry. Like when you have your older kids, how many snacks do toddlers eat throughout the day, And so it's kind of crazy to think that, oh, baby is only gonna eat meals. Like baby might also want a snack. How many times do you take a sip out of your water bottle during the day? Well, your baby might also need a little sip. So I think that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this video. I hope that you will find this video as an encouragement and not as an attack on formula feeding moms. I don't know how many times I can point back to my own personal experience of using formula. I'm obviously not against it, and I think that there's time and place, but also I love breastfeeding and I think it's beautiful, and I think it's amazing that not only do we carry our babies as they grow in our womb for 9 to 10 months, then we get to nourish them and watch them grow. There's no greater joy than seeing your baby grow and having everybody comment on like, oh, look how big he is, like he's growing so much, and knowing that like that's 100% me. Like I'm doing that. My body is doing that for him and helping him grow and thrive and just become the cutest, squishiest, sweetest little boy that I just want to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So obviously I'm in love and obsessed with him. So I just want that for all of you, and I just pray that if you're struggling with breastfeeding, this can be an encouragement. Maybe you got some little nugget of information that can help you in some way. And if you have any questions, just comment down below with them and I will do my best to either answer it or point you to somebody who can answer it for you. And just always remember that you're the perfect mom for your baby, and God will be there for you and provide everything that you need. You just have to ask him. So invite him in and just see what he can do, because it's pretty awesome. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.